Welcome to Conversations with Nurses, a podcast where we chat with nurses from all walks of life. I'm Paula-Holland. Join me as I take you into an inside look into the nursing profession, where we explore the human side of healthcare and gain insight into the dedication and compassion that drive nurses to care for others. So grab your headphones and come along for the ride as we dive on in on Conversations with Nurses. I want you to meet Christian, a dedicated nurse working in ED to provide quality care to his patients. This is the first time that I've actually met Christian, but I did hear about his work through his sister, eavesdropping in a coffee shop. Out of all the things about working in ED is the camaraderie he shares with his fellow healthcare workers. Despite the long hours and high-stress environment, they always find ways to lift each other's spirit and make each other laugh. Christian, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
How random is it that I happened to meet your sister and she dobbed you in?
It's very serendipitous, but it's also very like my sister. She knows that I'm very passionate about what I do, and I'm more than happy to talk about, really the highs and the lows of emergency nursing. So yeah, let's get into it.
That's it. So you're working in one of the busiest ED departments in the Southern Hemisphere, aren't you?
Yeah. It's a bit of a battle between us and the Gold Coast. It's usually pretty neck and neck, but we kind of beat them in the last survey when we had, I think it was 480 people in one 24-hour period, to average like one person every 15 seconds.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. But you only work 3 days a week. I think that's a bit slack.
You win some, you lose some, So even I feel the same 3 days a week. What do I even do? Do I even come to work? I don't know. I just feel like a special guest appearance.
But they're long days.
Yes.
You're making
they
up
can
for
be
it.
very, very long days, it feels like sometimes. For those of you who are listening who don't know how emergency nursing works, every day when we come in, we'll have a sit around, we'll come to our break room, we'll have a sit down, and we'll all find out where we're working for that day. So I might find out, so our nurse coordinator will go through our shift allocation and be like, okay, Christian, you're working in resus today. Sarah, for whatever, you're working in assessment. Another nurse, you might be working somewhere else. And that changes every day so we don't burn out.
Yeah.
And it also makes sure we have a really good split of our senior staff among various areas to make sure that our junior nurses are supported as well.
And you like to support the junior nurses?
Oh, bless. I absolutely do. I adore teaching our junior nurses because my favorite thing to say to them is, because a lot of them coming into ED for the first time, it's very stressful. It's very overwhelming. You're dealing with the highs and the lows of, people's worst day of their life. I still tell them the easiest motto is, did you suck less than yesterday? If yes, brilliant. If no, what can we do to make sure you feel that you didn't suck less, make sure you didn't suck the next day?
Improvements.
As small as they may be.
Yeah, they
Progress.
make a big difference.
Correct.
So what is your reflection on nursing?
Nursing has really come a long way since Florence. We mentioned before that this has been touched on. We've come a very long way in the practice of nursing, that the technology we use, the things we'd have to do has come a long way. I've mentioned before when I have to mechanically ventilate someone, I'm responsible for every single function of that person. And this is stuff that, Florence wasn't able to do given technology limitations, but we can't also ignore the progress that Florence made for nursing, purely for sanitation, the hygiene, improving the conditions for World War II soldiers.
World War II soldiers?
Mm.
And I've had Sarah on talking about the World War II nurses.
I know they're coming out, the ACN are coming out for more of that, for the World War II nurses, with the memorial to Lieutenant Colonel Vivian Bullwinkle as well. I guess it's really important that we reflect on our history to kind of see how far we've come. And then look at, what can we do for the future to safeguard the profession and make sure we have the dedicated professionals that we need to continue our profession.
Yes.
And keep doing what we love, essentially.
So really, we've come from the sort of gentle looking after people to be critical thinkers and to make rash decisions or important decisions to save somebody's life.
Yeah. Some of my new nurses currently have come down from the wards, and it's one of the first things I try to teach them, that you're not going to have a doctor at your beck and call every 2 seconds. You need to be making the best possible decision with the best information you have at the time. Like I've said to my colleagues before, behind the scenes, I'll spend hours like catching up on things that caught me by surprise that week, or I didn't know, a medication I might not understand, because I owe it to my patients to always be giving them my best.
So you've used that with your patients when they come in with, say, crippling abdo pain?
So the patient came in, they're a lovely young person. They'd been telling me, I've had abdominal pain for like the last 2 hours. I don't know what's going on. So I start doing my assessment. I've had a quick look at their gut to see, okay, are they overly bloated? Is there other reason? I start getting to feeling along their bowel, and then I start feeling like this really hard lump. I'm like, hang on a minute. I keep going. And then as I'm being a bit more careful, I realize, wait, is that vibrating?
Vibrating?
It was vibrating. And then the patient said, looked me dead in the eyes and was like, yeah, I've got a vibrator stuck there. I went, oh, right, makes sense.
In her bowel?
In her butt, yes. Bear in mind, I was still quite new, so I was kind of horrified, looking at the patient, looking at my mentoring nurse who was trying not to laugh, and I was like, I don't know how to resolve this. Help.
How do I turn it off?
Yeah, where do I go to from here? Uh-oh, help.
How did the patient react? Because you're trying to be serious and be a dedicated nurse.
She thankfully broke the tension by just having a good laugh and said, look, my partner and I, we tried something, it didn't work. And I went, great. So that immediately gave me the permission to kind of have more of a laugh with her, build that therapeutic relationship. But it's always going to be a very careful thing. You need to know your audience before pulling those jokes. Like with some of my guy colleagues, for instance, there is a very firm rule in my department that there shall never be more than 2 blokes in one area, because our group IQ is a peanut.
You can't work together because
we are not allowed. It comes from one of the senior nurses who has teenage sons, and she's like, the more of you there are, the bigger apes you are. Therefore, not going to happen. We are very indignant that it is really offensive to apes, but you live, you learn.
Well, you don't take that as an offensive to your gender or anything like that.
We know we're stupid in large numbers. We know this.
And you probably egg each other on.
I will not confirm or deny that, but it's very true.
Of course, you've got to have fun at work.
Oh, absolutely. I think having that fun is a really good outlet for the very serious job that we do. Like, from 1 minute, I can go from someone who's having that abdominal pain from, a vibrator that's stuck in them, to someone having the single worst day of their life because they've been involved in a car accident or they're having a heart attack. We've got to take the good with the bad, because that's the real nature of this. That's the real nature of nursing. We can't be discriminatory based on, oh, this is boring or this is whatever. The patients need us for our clinical expertise in our care. It doesn't matter what race, creed, or religion you are, or whether you're a prisoner or not. I don't care. You're my patient. I will look after you. Exactly.
Do you think it would have been easier if that patient had said to you straight up, I've come in because I've got a vibrator up my...
I think it would have made... It's a very hard one because I do think that I've said to many patients before, well, after that instance, I would much prefer you be completely honest with me and I will genuinely forget about it within the first 30 minutes. If you try to obscure the truth, I will find out about it and then I'll find it immensely more funny. So I didn't think there was any pleasure receptors back that far, but hey, you learn something new about the body every day.
Exactly. So with your work, you can be in the most stressful situations, and we often hear about ambulances ramping up because ED is busy. You've told us that there's probably one patient every 15 minutes.
Seconds.
Every 15 seconds.
Correct.
Oh, that's right, 480 in a 24-hour period.
Mm-hmm.
Every 15 seconds you've got a patient coming through the door.
Whether it's off an ambulance or walking into the waiting room, It's one thing that I say to a lot of people when they kind of question that, because wards are very fortunate in the sense that they can stop taking patients when they're full. Emergency, we don't have that luxury. We will put patients and care for them in any available space because obviously people need that emergency care. And if you're emergently sick, we need to emergently see you and deal with that.
And that's where triage helps.
Yes.
They can assess whether you're category 1, which is straight in, or category 4, you've got a splinter in your foot. We'll take it
5.
out. But
that would be a 5. It's a splinter.
Well, my girlfriend went in Good Friday night with her broken ankle, and she said there was nobody in ED. Was that just a lucky?
I think that was a very lucky thing. I think that was very lucky because a lot of, like Good Friday, everyone had gone away. I mean, emergency, there was nobody, but it was great because we had a lot of time to then catch up on education, catch up on mentoring. I could catch up with my junior nurses that I needed to. So just because we don't have the volume of patients, it was a rare opportunity for us to do a lot of that teaching that can sometimes be missing on day shift.
Check all the expiry dates on the drugs.
Yes.
That's always a job that has to be done, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. It's the checking and rechecking of equipment because you need to make sure it works. You need to make sure you know how to use it.
Yeah. So it was still a busy shift for you regardless of the number of
100%.
patients that came through.
Yeah, we still had lots.
Was the rest of the weekend the same? Because it is a long public holiday, people are partying on.
Yeah, I can't imagine what it would have been like for my poor wax colleagues down south. That would have been everyone going down south a long weekend. I reckon all the poor emergency departments down there would have been swamped. But I think it was because I only worked the Good Friday night shift. I didn't do the rest of the weekend. But from what my colleagues said, it was pretty similar.
Good.
But the Monday, Tuesday afterwards was horrendous.
Yeah, everyone's come back.
Everyone's come back. Everyone's like, I should probably go get this checked. It's like, why didn't you come in on the weekend? I was busy. So were we.
Because it's renowned. I've been in ED where you're waiting 4 hours to be seen.
That's a very short wait.
That's a short wait?
That's a very short wait.
Okay, I must remember not to go to the busiest ED department in the Southern Hemisphere.
Oh, we've had days that have blown out to 12, 16 hours.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And you don't have a little tea lady that goes around and make cups of tea for everybody.
I wish we could, but especially if we've got patients that potentially need surgery, we can't give them a cup of tea. So we have to be the mean nurses that don't give you a cup of tea.
We love a cup of tea.
Oh, absolutely! A cup of tea and chocolate, and I'm set.
Chocolate.
What
is it about chocolate and nurses? I
think you can
had to give an injection to a child, you told me.
I did. Normally, I like to say you can bribe nurses for most things with chocolate. But this lovely young lady, she was all of about 7. She was saying to me, an apple a day keeps the doctor away, failing to realise that I was actually a nurse. And I said to her, oh, dear, sweet, precious girl, unfortunately, apples don't work on me. I'm a nurse. If you've got chocolate, we can maybe come to an arrangement. But if you don't, you're going to get your vaccination, dear.
She was okay with that? She was.
She found it quite funny, but by the time she'd realised I'd already done it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. Diversion.
100%. It worked very well. And she was like, I didn't even feel that. I'm like, told you. Have
you ever had situations there where you've had to hold somebody down?
Yes.
Restrain them?
So there are a number of different reasons why we do need to use, obviously, our physical restraint. So obviously, an emergency, as many people would know, we do see a lot of alcohol and drugs where you do need to be placing hands on people to keep not just us safe, but to also keep them safe from themselves, because drugs and alcohol can often cloud your judgment and you might not make the same decisions that you would if you hadn't taken those. But on the flip side, we also use a lot of clinical holds for children, because especially when we're dealing with younger children, they might not necessarily realise that what we're doing is as we're trying to help them. So we do need to use our clinical holds to get procedures done initially, maybe put in an IV cannula so we can give them fluids or medicines to kind of combat whatever's going on. Or sometimes, if we're fixing a bone in ED, when we're giving a child a bit of medication to just help them feel a bit more relaxed, and they're maybe like 4 to 6, we might not necessarily be able to build that rapport. So we need to use those clinical holds to keep them safe and keep us safe.
Yes, we do it in